favorite song. God, I love it.
And welcome to Tavern Talk. We are a live stream talk show based on the epic fantasy series Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. My name is Ryan, and joining me as always is my brother Dan and Jansen, the Gleeman. Welcome, fellas. We got a great show for you tonight. I hope everyone's been enjoying the Water Holiday special. If you're just coming on from that, you got another hour and a half of content waiting for you. We're getting nerdy. We're diving into a speculative episode. But before that, let me see how's everyone's doing. How's everyone doing? Let's check in.
How are you, Jansen?
I'm doing good. Suffered a big loss last week in the family, but having people and knowing people like you two and some of the other people who have befriended me over the years has helped me get through it, and I'm back, and I know that my cousin would want me to still keep going.
Oh, that's great to hear. And yeah, my thoughts and prayers to you, my friend. That's a horrible thing to go through, but I know.
Yeah. I mean, we're all behind you. Loss is the worst. I mean, it's the worst. You know, we don't care about before we were born, but after we die, like that whole thing, you leave your mark, and so he obviously left a mark on you, and I'm my heart's with you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for sharing. All right, brother Dan, how are you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. The weather outside is frightful, but this show is so delightful. I'm doing great. We were part of the Water Holiday. We did not only watch Scenario, I was also part of Jeopardy Christmas style through Twatcast. It was great. Let's give a big shout out to our friend MR Howley, who during our slot at 1 a.m. Donated $1,000 to the Watt a Holiday fundraising. We have some awesome friends. You guys are awesome. Matt's Dagger was there. He was a drawer. Yeah, it was great. All of it was great. Wadahalakasi, he's in the chat. He was a drawer. Kev is not here. He only comes on. Yeah, I'm just kidding. It was super great, and I had a really nice nap before this.
You feeling good? Awesome.
I'm feeling good.
Awesome,
yeah.
And you look good.
Thanks.
All right. As for me, I'm starting my new job tomorrow. Wish me luck. I'm going back in the world of being professional. I look good, don't I?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I like this dress rehearsal you got going on, Ryan.
I'm ready. I got my tie on.
Do you have a new haircut?
Yeah. Thank you. No. It's my hair's static.
Yeah. Matt Stagger, thank you so much. You are a very generous person. And he's expressing his sorry for your loss, Jansen. The Reds would have went full on King Herod if they had heard.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah. Let's bring in our guests, and then we'll introduce the topic. Let's see who's here. Oh, it's Dad Sway Sadai enjoying a hearty brew at the tavern.
Dad Sway has really become our Ajah expert, kind of. Whenever we're talking Ajahs or Aes Sedai, Dad Sway's our go-to.
I appreciate that.
Well, we love you.
Our resident Ajah expert.
Ajah expert. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. We're doing great. Yeah, so why are we here? Yeah, so we had this amazing someone in
Ryan, hold on. Right.
Go for it.
Explain, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was amazing. So Thanksgiving is not an Australian holiday, but we've embraced it, surely, because it's food and drinking, which are some of our favorite things. So I was properly stuffed and then went into a food coma, and I had the day off and then had the day after off as well. So I really got to kind of rest and relax. and it was great. I enjoyed it.
This might be our favorite holiday in America, if
Mhm.
just for the fact that it occurs on a Thursday.
Yeah,
Always. So you always have a 4-day weekend.
it was
Unless you're
fantastic.
a mail carrier or something along those lines. But for the most part, they give you Friday off as well. And it's kind of like you always get that 4-day weekend. If Christmas happens on a Wednesday, what the fuck do you do, right? Do you take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off? It's baffling. But Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving is always convenient and always reliable. It's
Yeah.
the best holiday.
I agree. How is turkey and Vegemite together?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
So, Declan, do you
It's
have
an adventure.
Are there other Australians that you live with or near, or do you have family?
No, yeah, my family's actually here in America. So the very short version of the story is my dad is from Texas, but my mum is Australian, and my dad worked with the military, and so he kind of crossed with the Australian military and helped them out a little bit, and then met my mum, and then they got married and had kids, and then when he retired, he wanted to be near his family, which is here in Texas, and so that's how he brought us all over when he retired, and we've been here ever since. So there's a few Aussies around the Austin, Texas area, but for the most part, I don't run into very many Australians here.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't run into very many Australian families. If there's an Australian, they are just vagabonds and Magellans who have just left the island and searched for something.
Adventure or dreams.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A true walkabout.
Right.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to kind of be able to come to America with my family because America's massive and quite a culture shock. So it was nice to have everyone around to sort of experience that together.
Well, turkey
Awesome.
is a crap bird. Do not embrace that as American culture, but embrace the family and watching the Lions win, baby.
Yeah. And so how did you learn to speak English, Dad Swain?
That's Duolingo. Australian to English.
And reruns of Love Boat, right? Or something.
It's hilarious because some of the questions that people ask you when you're not from the country that you're in, based on kind of what they know about, stuff they've learned from either the internet or television or whatever, can be really entertaining. And so I had a lady ask me one time about what language we spoke in Australia, and I was like, English, of course. And she was like, no, but what language do you speak? And I was like,
Yeah.
English. And she wouldn't take it. She was just like, no, but like the language. So I was like, oh, so frustrating. Like, it's a version of English. Basically, we walk around and we're like, crocodile, Dundee, boola, 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 boola.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wow.
Wow.
My mind was blown. So every time I saw her, I was just like, wah, 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 like a didgeridoo.
Yeah, I speak didgeridoo. That's amazing.
That's
We're
right.
all
Have you
cool.
gotten over? You guys have clearly gotten over the fact that you're the birth land and home place of Adolf Hitler, right?
Really?
Well, Austria.
I think we passed that off to Germany, so we're good.
No, it was Austria, but I mean,
Austria, gotcha. I was like, I don't remember that part of our history.
he's like, the ruse.
She got me.
No,
She
right.
got me.
Yeah, Austria versus Austria.
Austria,
It was a joke.
gotcha. I was like, wow.
All right, yeah.
I've been-
Jensen,
All right, and-
you knew what I was doing.
All right, and now the show. Let's get into the show.
All right, good. Thank you, Ryan.
So in our last live stream, someone brought up this great idea, and we're running with it. Let's all imagine. Okay, the fateful event, Gitara Moroso giving her foretelling. And she dies tragically, with Moiraine and Suiane being the only two people who heard her, and that sent them off on a 20-year mission that culminated in the Eye of the World. We had this idea that what if it was any other two ajahs, any other two sitters or sisters from other ajahs. So we're going to speculate on whether, so imagine it was two yellows in the room and they heard the foretelling. What would transpire? How would the book change? how would they handle that revelation? So we're going to go through each Aja, and we're going to just speculate, have fun with us in chat, give us your ideas. This should be a
Ryan,
fun.
I'd also like to open this up and be like, not only are there, because obviously Gitara was blue, Swan was blue, Moiraine was blue. So we could do where there were 2 yellows, 2 reds, or let's do it also where there's these 3 blues and a brown, or and I mean, so either we can answer it. I'm curious to see what would have happened if there was just another Aja there as well, but we can replace as well, so we can talk about both aspects if that's cool with you.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to clarify too, is it that the Amelin and the Keeper are a different Aja, and Moiraine and Swan are still there, or just the whole shebang is a different Aja?
It would be Gitara is the same. She's blue.
Right.
But instead of Swan and Moiraine being of the blue Aja, it would be
Aja.
Swan and Moiraine being of the red, or
Right.
Swan and Moiraine being of
No, well, that kind of complicates things. We don't need. I don't think we need to keep them as if like we're making Swan and Rain switch Ajas. I think that's a little complicated.
Okay.
Let's just like a nameless. It doesn't even need to be specific characters. If we wanted to, we can. But I say just like let's go Aja specific. It gets a little confusing. If we were to try and like rename or recategorize Swan and Rain. It'd be hard to imagine them as reds, anyways.
Well, yeah. So
what Ajah
go
are we
ahead.
going to start with?
Well, let me spin the wheel. All right, let's start with brown.
Excellent.
Let's start with brown. All right, so Gitara's in the room.
I
She's
see
going,
him.
Oh, I see he shines like the sun. Ugh. And it's 2 browns in the room. What happens next?
I believe that. Now, first off, before I say anything, I'm going to say that I do believe that some of the Ajahs would bring ultimate destruction if it was them in charge.
Agreed.
Now, I do think that the Browns are one of those that would not do that, because I do think that if it was happened to the Browns, say 2 Browns were there, hopefully that those 2 Browns were not of the black as well, right? So the Browns bring one huge thing that the Blues couldn't bring, and that's being informed about like more information, like factual information, like scientifically based information that they can use. And we saw that with Varen knowing a lot of the Ascenic cycle from the Junction. She even asked Perrin, remember, when are you going to put that away for the hammer? You know, like, and so she knew a lot of things. So being able to have Gitara's factually based, see, that's the other thing, to actually be there and knowing what Gitara said is true. You know, that is a huge deal right there. You know, like, because through the books, some of the Ajahs didn't even believe that Rand was actually the Dragon Reborn.
You know, you make a very good point. The prophecies that we have are or foretellings. I don't think the person who made them wrote them. I think it's more like the Prophet Muhammad, who could like just saying something and a scribe writing it down, or remembering it and writing it down. Having it straight from the horse's mouth, right, with the guitar, especially someone like Varen, someone who knows Trolloc script, someone who knows everything, right? I mean, so with the Browns, do we think that it would have taken them so long to find Ranathor?
I think that it's possible that the Browns could have already had somebody in place in the field.
Oh, okay.
Oh, how would they know?
Huh?
How would they know?
Well, I think that like the Browns' knowledge of like terrain, knowledge of all those things, like I think where Suiane and Moiraine stumbled through things, the Browns might have easily gone through them. You know, like you look at it this way: where did Suiane and Moiraine the first place they went? You know, the first place they went was to the borderlands, right?
Mhm.
To start looking for everything. I don't know if the Browns would have done that.
Hmm.
Thinking about where the Dragon Reborn might have been born, Manetheren seems like a really, really, really good place as far as bloodlines, as far as like where the blood sings. I mean,
Mm.
you
That's a
know,
good point because Moraine and Swan basically were not necessarily looking for the Dragon Reborn based on information. They were going after the women who had been pregnant or had given
Yeah.
birth, and so the Browns would have had certainly like a vault of information that they could say, okay, the dragon's been reborn, instead of chasing, you know, Luann and Marsha over there. Like, why don't we pinpoint like where he might have been raised, or where the old blood is strong, or just like what you're saying. So I think they might have been better prepared on that front, instead of just chasing random pregnant
yeah,
women.
So how about this? Would they have? Oh, sorry, Jansen. Go on. You cut out.
Viren was a master at taking little things
Mhm.
and putting them all together to make a big picture. Or that's how she made Compulsion. You know, she took little
Right.
things.
We have to assume that, like, from the books, that Varen is, besides being black, spoilers, she is the prototypical good brown, right? She does studying, she knows shit. So she is our brown archetype. What the Browns can do is
Absolutely.
Varen.
She's the Webster's Dictionary Brown. For sure.
Yeah, and I think
Right. So if it was Varen in there, again, not being black, black with its own ajah, remember. But if it was Varen in there, not black, how would she have handled Rand al'Thor?
I think they might have known. I'm thinking of the way that Nisoon, when Rand was like, why do you want to agree to follow me? And she's a brown sister, and she's like, I want to study you, just flat out. And so I think that they had a much more maybe practical approach to the Dragon Reborn, having all of this knowledge around them, that they could say, okay, our goal is to learn, is to get him to the last battle for sure, but to prepare the White Tower and prepare ourselves on how do we get a man who can channel, who's going to go insane, but he has to stay not insane so he can fight the Dark One. How do we use our knowledge to move him in that direction?
I agree.
Uh-huh.
I agree. I think that they would be very hands off. I think that they would just, again, be kind of just watching and comparing to history and looking at prophecies, but not trying to control him much at all. I think it would be more observational. What do you think, Jansen?
I think that like Varen and Rand might have had a better relationship than
Ooh.
And I look at Varen as being almost like Gandalf with Rand, like exploring it together, like exploring what he needed to do together and finding out like together, not like Moraine who tried to manipulate Rand into doing things. I think that Viren would have found it just as fascinating to discover the new things that Rand was having to do, more than like Moraine brought it to herself as a responsibility of what she had to shepherd into the world. So
I
really
agree.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really like how the Browns' relationship with one another as well. Like we saw in, I believe it was the Great Hunt, when they had the dark prophecy on the wall, after Padan Fain had been rescued or released from the cell, and Varen and Seraphel, the other brown sister, were kind of like noodling heads together. And you saw Seraphel and Varen pair up a couple of times throughout the series, where they were kind of like comparing notes and sharing information and stuff. So I think the Browns had like a relationship like that with other Browns. So if Varen had have attached herself to Rand, then she would have had the benefit of the rest of the Brown Ajah to kind of pull from when she needed information and when she needed to help guide him in a certain way or something.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. One, we all have to understand that Gitara Moroso would have added in the, if there was a Brown there as she was dying, she would have said, "What will Brown do for you?" Clearly. But also, do you think that the Brown, if we had two random Browns, would they keep it a secret like Moiraine and Suiane did? And what would have and then what are the implications of that? Because there's a very strong reason why they kept it a secret.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
I think that Varen, or I think that the Browns would have come to the same conclusion. Because remember in the Great Hunt, when the Amberlin came to Caldara, and Varen was with Moiraine and Suiane, she mentioned some of the same fears. So I think they would have come to the same conclusion of what would have happened with them.
Okay, so they would have kept it a secret amongst themselves.
Especially from now, they may not have kept it. They might have kept it within the Brown Ajah. Because the Browns, unlike the Blues are very secretive, even amongst themselves. Browns, however, might have taken it upon themselves as an Ajah to do it, which would have then brought the Black into. So
I think you're absolutely right. These are scholars. They're scientists. They collaborate. They ask each other. They're always asking each other things. Yeah. I think it would have been all over the Brown Ajah, and then all over the Tower, and then all over the world. What do you think, Dad Swain?
Yeah,
the Brown has kept the secret.
I do think that, but I also think that the Brown would have been able to, because I don't know how politically ambitious the Brown Ajah is versus maybe how politically ambitious a Blue sister or the Blue Ajah would be. So I wonder if the Brown would have taken the extra steps to try to prepare the Tower for the information. Like, how do we present this to the Tower? Let's not present it now, because scientists are also not like, we've got this new information, we're just presenting it. They're kind of like, let's take it and focus it and organize it and whatever, and then present it as a finished product. So I do wonder if they might have kept it to the Brown Ajah and then maybe set a portion of it to say, how do we present this to the Hall? How do we present this to whomever? But yeah, initially I do agree. I think they might have kept it to themselves.
Janie Wright writes that you like that. Janie Wright writes, they would have spent the next 20 years in the library researching all the ramifications of telling anyone.
Well, but on the bigger meta level, though, would they have been able to keep that secret, do you think, Jansen?
I do, because of what happened to Suiane and Moiraine. So, when they found out what happened, a number of things happened to them over the course of like a year that made them more secretive about the information. Like if two Browns, if this would have happened and then something with the Black Ajah would have came, the Black Ajah was a huge reason why they had to keep stuff secret, because they didn't know who to trust. And I think that would be the reason why whatever Ajah they were, they would have eventually kept it to themselves because of the Black.
But aren't the Browns the blabbermouths, though? Wouldn't you think that they are the ones that just want to show off their information? They're the ones that are good at bar trivia. They're the ones that's like they're like, hey, look at that boat, look at that ship, and you're like, no, that's a boat, or vice versa. They're the ones that correct you. They're like, for who's that? And they're like, for whom?
Good looking like they don't know what they're talking about when they do.
Yes.
Yeah, they always got smudges on their noses.
Yeah, but kind of like what we talked about the last time is, I think, Jensen, you mentioned this, is each of the Brown sisters' point in life is to create some sort of knowledge and give it to the world. So I think they do keep a lot to themselves, or they are able to keep a secret as they are, preparing this knowledge to be released into the world. They don't really want anyone to know about it until it's like a fully formed, product.
So that type of inaction might, or like, so we do imagine they had 20 years to find him and the events of Winter's Night, right? So let's imagine the Brown find Rand at basically the same time Moiraine finds Rand. Would a Brown sister have been able to keep him alive?
I think that if she was with the right warder, yes.
Mhm.
Like, just case in point, someone like Tomas. I think Tomas would have been able to get the help, pretty much do a lot of the same thing.
Okay.
I don't think that, especially up until Gathering Storm, maybe. Memory of Light, no, Gathering Storm. Land's sword prowess wasn't needed until.
Yeah, but he did know about Shadow Logoth.
He did,
and he did. I mean, he's like, that's the only way to get out of this, and then they all ended up in Shadow Logoth, which was a big big deal. Yeah,
that Aaron would have also known that information. A Brown would have known about Aaron Hall, and maybe even more than Moiraine about more than all those things. So I mean, because remember, like each Aes Sedai is extremely knowledgeable and powerful in a lot of different. So a lot of them, and something else that we always saw happen in the books was somebody always found a way to do something differently that someone else could do. And I think a Brown with a warder is a pretty proficient weapon and tool to have with you.
Right.
And also knew Rand needed Varen even to help him read the portal stones.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's true, but also like we do have the events of a whole Trolloc army coming at them, and Moiraine was able to do a wall of freaking fire.
That's true.
Would another Brown have been able to do that, or is that a special Moiraine ability?
Maybe, but remember, he also had an angry owl.
She did. All right, hey, let's guys, this just in. We have a special guest. Let's bring her in. Special guest. Special guest.
Hey,
Everyone, it's London River. I said it right this time. Only one river this time.
Yeah, good job. That's it. I mean, I would have forgiven you.
Thank you.
Brian, I am proud of you.
I did it. I think I still text with an S, but yeah, London River is here. Welcome. We were just we're knee deep in talking about whether okay, so the premise of our show is we're discussing whether or not like we're imagining other Ajahs were there with Gitara Moroso when she made her Foretelling.
Right.
And so we're speculating forward, and we've just been going knee deep into the Browns, and we're discussing.
We've only been Brown so far, but we're talking about whether the Browns would have kept Rand alive to face Tarmagide. I guess was the last question we had.
Of course.
So how would they have handled Rand, in your opinion?
Well, Rand would be a really interesting project for a Brown. I mean, I think they would have. I don't think they would have been nearly as controlling of him as like even Moiraine intended to be. It would be more like they would have like observe and take notes and want to see how things pan out.
Do you think there might be unintended consequences of that? Like, do you think that they might require more action, like, say, from Moiraine? Just going through the Eye of the World, like, so many times she saved the Edmund Field 5 just trying to get out of there. Do you think a Brown would have been able to been able to yeah, basically like fend off the Trolloc army, fend off the Murdrolls, get them to where they need to go?
Maybe it kind of depends on the Brown. Probably, I think that even the reason that Moiraine was so good at that stuff is because she was out in the field a lot, so she had a lot of experience with. I mean, so if it was like a Brown that did a lot of traveling and things, I think she would have done okay. Yeah. If it was someone that was more locked in the tower reading books, maybe not.
Right, and that goes for the Warder as well. I mean, you have Lan, who is like the world champion. He's like the Conor McGregor of
True.
Warders.
Yeah.
He walks in, he's like, apologize to absolutely no one.
He's the Conor McGregor of Warders. That's funny. All right.
So I am of the opinion that if there was a third person there, Moiraine, Suiane, and ex-Ajah, I think the Brown would probably be one of your best allies to have because of that access to knowledge and all the prophecy stuff. I think out of all 7, if there was one more person to be there, you would want a Brown. What do you guys think? That's when.
I would say yeah, I agree. But a side tangent. London is so good to meet you. We follow each other on Twitter, and I'm always like so pleased when I get to see like posts and things and likes. So I'm so happy.
Yay.
Yeah.
London, Dad's way.
Yeah. Oh, hi.
Hi.
But yeah, because I think we saw that combination of blues and brown when in Faldara when Verin was talking to Moiraine and Suiane, and so I think that is a natural combination of Ajahs to have the blues and the browns kind of team together for that specific purpose.
How would they be able to confirm whether? I mean, they can like Suiane and Moiraine can confirm that neither of the two are black because they're lovers and they've known each other forever. What would they have done to make sure that this random Brown who's in the room with them was not a black Ajah?
I don't know that they could have because they didn't really do it anyway with Verin. So
Good point.
Yeah. So it kind of went over their head a bit if they knew anything at all.
And I think we could see how a Brown would have handled Rand through Verin's handling of Perrin when she was traveling with him. She was really observational, but she did help guide him through these odd little comments that just got his thick brain moving and going, well...
Yeah, she finessed him. Yeah.
So yeah, that might have been how the Browns would have worked it. What else about the Browns? Jansen, what do you think?
I think the Browns would have ultimately helped lead to the light winning. I think that they would have gone about it a little bit differently. I think that I think the pattern chose the blue. And I think they chose the blue for a number of reasons. Like Rand being born, his Ta'veren nature affected the world that day. That's what I have to believe that.
So it is not a coincidence that the 3 women in that room were all blue Ajah.
No, it's not. Also, I thought about it at that moment when that happened in the White Tower. There were no other Aes Sedai in the tower. Correct?
That is correct. They were all out.
They were
with
all
the Aiel.
Wait, the entire tower is empty? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was just accepted. And
accepted, and the novices and all of the workers and all the other.
It was Thanksgiving, right? Yeah. Come on.
You're right. Okay.
The office was empty.
There's only 2 Aes Sedai that we know for sure. During the time, but by the time Gitara said those words, and the time that Moiraine left the tower, we only know for sure of 2 black Ajah in the tower. 2. Marianne and Ispen Shafa. Those are the only 2 we know of. So that kind of goes to tell me that, and I know I'm going a little bit off here, but it goes to tell me that I think that, and I've been one of the people saying this, I don't think Gitara was black.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. You're going back on your word?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a whole nother show.
That is another show, but goddamn, Gitara totally was black. Oh my gosh! How dare you, Jensen? She was evil. All right.
Did you really think so?
That's
yeah.
traditional.
Oh yeah.
Every keeper that we know, for the most part, are just black. Yeah.
Don't think so.
Ryan, list it off.
No, we don't need to go into it. No,
Okay.
yeah. There's a whole slew of reasons why we think Gitara is a black agent.
Gotcha. I'll do some
but
research.
okay, so let's finish up with a quick poll. So it looks like we have 3 out of 5 of us believe that the Browns would have been successful. They would have gotten him to Tarmogeddon. I'm of the assumption that they have flaws within their makeup that would have caused unintended consequences, right? So I think that their need to be assured before they act. If we were to literally transcribe a brown sister with Moiraine at Winter's Night, I think it would have gone down a lot differently, because Moiraine was like a super soldier who was able to act, who was able to just take command of the situation, had a lot of military abilities, had a lot of special powers. She and Lan were, I think, uniquely able to get them out of there. I don't think a Brown would be able to do that, so I think it would have gone down in flames. Dan, do you think Browns would have failed or succeeded?
I think they would have succeeded. I think they would have found Rand before the Dark One. I think that they would have known. I think they would have had more information than Moiraine, and thus would have been more proactive than reactionary. And so I think that overall, if we had Baron, who not Black Ajah Baron, if we had someone of Baron's skill, and Tomas, get the fuck out, drool, right? If we had Tomas there, I think he would have done fine. I think he would have been protected and guided better than Moiraine did.
All right, 4 out of 5. All right, maybe I'll start a poll. Let's see what the chat says. Let's move on to another colored Ajah.
A lot of strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
How about let's go for the whites right now?
Ooh.
Let's go for the white.
Disaster.
What?
Barf.
Absolute disaster.
Absolute disaster. Yeah.
So the whites are the logic. They are the mathematicians. They are the engineers, let's say, of the White Tower. They are aware of the birth of Rand al'Thor. He has been born on the slopes of Dragonmount. Blood dead. Gitara. There are 2 whites. London. How do these 2 whites handle things, do you think?
Not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think that like whites are like, if we're just, I mean, I think of whites as like they're like the chess champions of the Aes Sedai, right? Like they're not. I just don't see them going out and finding anyone. I don't see them doing well in a battle situation. They're just not. That's just not their thing. Yeah, it's like they're like a bunch of Sheldon Coopers, right? They're just like going to go out there and
Yes,
like and just be smarter than everyone and talk about like arithmetic or something. And it's just
now you see a way for the whites to victory. Now, the whites, if they were true whites, because you have to look at the same, every Ajah as having the same problems that Moiraine and Suiane had. Because those are what made them do what they did. Like the Black Ajah has to be put on the forefront of their minds. So would the whites just keep it amongst themselves, or would they, which I think that the only way they would do it they would have to vet people and make sure that they weren't black, and they would bring them in, try to try to do this because I think logically they would tell themselves that they couldn't do this on their own.
What do you think, Desmond?
I'm trying to see. So the white ajah is the smallest ajah. Is that correct?
Yes.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the size
because they're
doesn't
the
matter.
Mensa. They're the Mensa Ajah.
Disagree, but I think
I will
I
not
think-
argue ever with Desmond.
I do think that I've thought a lot about, because I would think that white ajah sisters had knowledge, but then that always kind of like threw me, because logic and philosophy and then the brown ajah knowledge, I think, are two separate things. So I think the way that whites approach knowledge is not the same as like a scholar or a brown ajah sister, but they approach knowledge in the more philosophical kind of reason and logic or something like that kind of way. So I don't know that they necessarily would have the same sort of vault of, looking at the prophecies, looking at the past dragons, or just the history of things to try to figure out where the dragon might be, or how to prepare the ajah to handle the dragon, or the tower to handle the dragon. So there certainly are capable white sisters, like the sitter or the first reasoner would have to be a capable person to withstand being in the hall and battling the hall and getting things done. But all in all, I just don't know that the white ajah would be the best ajah to, forefront handling the Dragon Reborn.
Ryan, what do you think?
I'm agreeing with everyone here. I think someone made a comment that they would have bored Rand to death, which is a funny comment. Yeah, they don't seem particularly adept at anything but just like trying to logic out and trying to convince rulers to do their bidding. So yeah, I think that they might be uniquely the worst ajah to be given this message.
Yeah, I don't know that they'd be great in battle. They've got algebra weaves, or I'm not sure what they're using. So
yeah. And look at the power math.
It's like I was just thinking about that old that Disney thing where Donald goes to the land of math and there's the numbers that are coming up. I feel like that's what they would.
That's the white ajah.
Yeah.
That's the test they go. All white go through that test in the rings.
Yeah,
They're actually battling
first
numbers.
stage. Yeah. I agree with you guys. I don't think. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I look at the whites a little bit differently, and because if you think about it, in the books, there's been some specific times where the whites were described, and it tells you a whole lot about their mentality and how they act. And one of those were in the last battle in the Mimir of Light, when Gareth Bryn got a note from the whites saying that we're tired, and Suiane said that makes sense that the whites would be the first ones to say it, because they wouldn't take the truth of that being they wouldn't take offense to that or be embarrassed by it. They're very practical. So I look at them almost as Mr. Spock from Star Trek, an arithmetist, but very just emotionless. So I don't know if they're not capable. I think they're very capable people. I just don't think that they have the emotion involved, and that makes them different. That makes because the Blues absolutely cared. Moiraine, the whites did not care. But I don't think that they would. I do think that they would make a disaster of it, but I don't think that they would be a disaster without trying. I think they would mean well, but I think that their decisions would be all percentage based.
I hear you, Rand. No, go ahead, Rand.
Oh, do you think that they would have been able to puzzle out where Rand is in the world faster than Moiraine did?
No.
Because again, I think the knowledge and the knowledge in the context of philosophy is a different thing. So if they had the clues, I'm sure they could have reasoned it all out. But I don't know that they would have the same.
They would
bit
have
of knowledge.
sisters all through all the nobility of all of the cities looking for the next big thing coming. Born. They wouldn't even be looking like.
Okay.
Could it be that? Well, could it be that? I mean, didn't Moiraine kind of mention that she followed Ta'Veren or recognized Ta'Veren reaction within the Two Rivers when she was there? Didn't she say something about that shit?
No, she didn't even contemplate that they were Ta'Veren until they got to Camelin and Loyal pointed it out.
Yeah, and she said, "Like, how could I have been so stupid?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yeah.
Okay. So to that end, could a statistician, white, have figured that out beforehand?
Probably. Probably.
Okay. What do you think, Dad Swain? Is there any possible advantage to having white? Looking for the Dragon Reborn.
Like, keep him in the tower. No, there has to be. I mean, I think there was a white sister at the cleansing who was fighting the Forsaken. So I'll backtrack a little bit and say they must have been at least capable. But I don't know that in the hunt for the Dragon Reborn or the preparation to figure out what to do with the Dragon Reborn, I'm not entirely convinced that the White Ajah would be the first place I'd go, or
No, they wouldn't be good at
necessarily
all.
pick White Sisters to be in my team.
We didn't see many White Sisters even go out on the field. I think that we saw one with what was her name, Ayako, the one who went out, who the Whites insisted on sending somebody to go get with Tylvain, Gozelle, and she was the one White that was captured. I believe her name was Ayako.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one I remember going out on the field, and he really failed.
Well, and London, when we think about like what once the Dark One touches the world, all logic gets fucking thrown out the window anyways. There is no logic. Hinderstadt is weird. It's not logical. These bubbles of evil, that peddler that gets sunk into the, all logic gets dissolved anyway. So it's all meaningless by the time of Gaiden comes, right?
Well, the pattern is still, even Tom says that at Hinderstadt, that the pattern's trying to right itself. You know, it's trying to fix itself. So, I mean, eventually it will. I do, for some reason, though, think Hinderstadt is an anomaly and will stay that way.
Mm-hmm. I also think that if you look again when Egwene was in the tower under Elida, and she was in the cell, she had White Sisters who were guarding her. But instead of like, I was always just captured by this. Instead of talking about the events of the tower or trying to figure out what was happening in the tower, they were talking about mathematics and outdated philosophy and stuff like that.
Well,
so,
and that's the point I'm making, is that the closer we get to Time of Gaiden, the more that all this logic stuff is nonsense, because Ta'Veren nature takes over, the pattern takes over, logic does not make sense. You fall off a ladder and bonk your head and you're like, oh, I'm fine, and then someone eats a piece of rice and chokes. Yeah, like logic just is the first thing to go, right? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, or like, I mean, the odds, like things like odds and stuff like that are the first thing to go. I don't think logic disappears, but I think that like the kind of analysis of, being able to look at patterns and think of like what is the most likely next option, which is what I think Whites would be great at, does kind of become something that you can't really do with a bunch of Ta'Veren running around in the world and the pattern like weakening and unraveling. So, yeah.
Yeah. With Ta'Veren and three of them, no less, you have, the pattern just kind of undulating and trying to work itself around whatever. So I think
you also have people walking around who are like nuclear bombs. Some of them are crazy. Like, That's some insane shit, man. Like,
Mhm.
you
Yep.
don't do that, man. Like,
Right. None of this stuff makes sense, and yet you have an Aja that is trying to make sense of things. I don't know.
I mean, I think during peacetime they could be super useful. Maybe
Mhm,
I don't know.
mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
we need.
that's my point. That's my
Yeah.
point. Is the closer we get to Tarmogoyden, the more the whites become utterly useless in their focus. Yeah, they're unfortunately the search for knowledge, and and logic when you have Taverin just doesn't make sense, and that's what logic is, trying to make sense of things. Fuck
All
you,
right,
whites.
So real quick, the last poll was just ended. Would the Browns successfully help Rand? 62% said no.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so
I disagree.
Mhm. Same.
You know what? I've had issues with democracy for at least a month now.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
know what? This is just par for the course.
I might have lost, but I don't think I'm wrong. So there we go.
Nice. Don't admit defeat. Never admit defeat.
That is a great phrase. All right, let's anything else about the whites? That's Wayne. Do you have anything? Nothing.
No, I think we covered
Yeah.
everything we needed.
All right.
I mean, if maybe they would have been able to, again, if they were able to like connect with Rand on some sort of meaningful level, maybe they would have helped him manage the game of houses better. Maybe they would have been able to explain like how to be a leader better. They might have prepared him for like taking over all the cities that he needs to do. They might have prepared him for leadership better. Which might be a point that might be helpful, but I don't know if they'd be able to take an emotional 20-year-old who's going through like just the biggest upheaval of his life and like really been able to connect on that level. It took Moiraine many failures just to be able to like get to that point with him too. So
Yeah.
All right.
I think that and I wish I would have thought about this before we had taken the Brown poll. I'm wondering what Ajahs would have been able to do what Moiraine did, and what I mean by that is surrender to Rand.
Yes.
So and that is the sole reason why I don't think the whites would have been able to do that. I do think a Brown could have done that.
Mhm.
But no way a white could.
Well, let's jump to Gray. Gray is the negotiators. They are the mediators. They are the arbitrators. They are the ones who try to make everything smooth in the end. How do you think two Grays would have handled this?
Anyone want to go first?
It's interesting because I think of what London said earlier about the whites is that the Greys would have had, or maybe Jansen said it. Sorry, they would have had knowledge of the politics and the way that the lands worked, and might have been more prepared to help Rand in that respect as he was becoming a sort of leader figure of the whole world. I don't know that if two Greys and Gitara Moroso was going into convulsions and being slain in the spirit would have been like, oh, we know what to do. I think they might have been in shock, and I don't know that they would have been have an immediate plan or have an immediate course of action like Moiraine and Suiane and Tamara had.
So the Greys do I think are more open-minded than a lot of the Ajahs.
I agree.
Yeah.
They understand that it isn't a zero-sum game. It isn't either you win or you lose. However, that's what Tarmogoyden is.
Mhm.
It is a zero-sum game. Either you win or you lose. But to get there, there's a lot of... I mean, Rand is taking over all kinds of nations.
Mm-hmm.
London, how do you think Grays would have worked?
I think Grays... like as we talk about like this, I think Moiraine was a special blue, and that might be part of why she worked too, because she has skills that are associated with Greys because of growing up the way that she grew up, and she has skills associated with the Browns just because she's taken it upon herself to research this one thing. So she only knows about one freaking thing, but like. It's like her whole life has been set. Yeah, she's pretty good at the one thing. So, and like I think if a Grey had been there, then they would have probably done the same thing as her, which is like really research this one thing, and then also go out with the skills that they have as a Grey. I think it would have been a similar result to what she gave us, in my opinion.
Okay. I think internally too, they might have been better at not necessarily hoarding the information to the Ajah, but negotiating with the Hall and with the rest of the tower, disseminating the information a little bit more freely, maybe.
Right, because blues are so secretive. They're known for being really secretive and like spies. Yeah.
So let's go through Rand's stages. So Rand is born. Drag him out. Tam takes. How do the Greys handle this?
Like right when the prophecy happens?
Yeah, and then let's say 3 months in.
Okay.
3 months in. Let's see. So I think that a Grey would have done very well up until about book 3. I think that, Rand, Matt, and Perrin, even Egwene and Nynaeve in some instances, they were greatly lacking in knowledge of where they were going, what they were doing, even the lay of the land. Moiraine and Lan kept them pretty much in the dark about a lot. Basically, all they said was, "Shut up, I'm Alice, and he's Andra."
That's a good point.
They didn't. A Grey, being an Aes Sedai, would know a lot of culture, know a lot of cities and the things that they do. Like, they would have been a better negotiator. Like, just like you guys said earlier, just like London said, they would have been a better negotiators. They would have, they would have helped. They would have helped our heroes in a different way. Now, that being said, I'm not sure they would have been able to navigate all of the, Trollocs and the Fades and all those things. Shadow Logoth. I don't know if they would have been prepared for that. Greys throughout the entire books seem kind of, I'm not going to say cowardly, but definitely not brave. So I'm not
so
sure.
That's it. You had mentioned that you think that the Greys would diminish in value as the books went on. I personally think that they would grow in value if they somehow got through Shadow Logoth, got Rand. I mean, how would the IO thing have worked? Would they? I mean, all this stuff. I think that things would have gone a little different until the Shanshin. And then I don't know if the Greys would have been a benefit to I think they would have wanted Rand to. I think they would have. I don't know, man. I don't know how what their guidance would have been. What do you guys, Dad Swain in London? What do you think? Like later in the books, let's say book 10, book 11, would a Grey have been great for him, or was he beyond guidance at that point?
I don't know that. That's a really good question.
Well, I mean, when you think about the Aes Sedai that he was with, it was Greys at that point, because Moiraine was out of the picture, and he had what's her freaking name? Starts with an A. Berlane's like Honora. Honora was, I think, the closest Aes Sedai to him at that point.
Which wasn't Shashel Anderley one too?
Yeah, and wasn't Marana Ambry was also Grey, I think.
Yeah.
So there were Greys about. You're right.
So, and I don't know if they benefited him though, because he didn't really like take advice at that point.
Arian.
No.
Yeah, I think Rand at that point, until he got to the mountain and got his head out of his ass, he was kind of beyond, and that was why Moiraine had to kind of submit herself, and kind of like change herself in a lot of ways, because she realized that Rand was being, mule-headed, and the blood of Manetheren plus Two Rivers plus just Rand al'Thor, you have to approach it a different way. And I'm not sure that the Greys would have been able to be as malleable like that. I think they might have been like, he's misbehaving, and and not know what to do.
Right. To a certain degree, in Jansen, would they have been more well, we've set this up for you. This is what you're going to do. I talked to the queen for you, and so you're going to split this land between you. Well, Rand comes in and he's like, no, this is all mine. This is all mine.
Yeah,
do you want to be the king? Yeah. I need someone. Dobrin, do you want to do it?
Didn't he delegate negotiations with the Sea Folk to a Grey, and that did not work out well?
It worked out. They got what he wanted, but
Good point,
he got pissed off at him at first until Catsman told him to shut up and listen to what they got before he started screaming. And he ended up getting exactly what he needed.
Well, when Rand was there, the Sea Folk were influenced by his Taveran nature, and once he left, they said, "Yeah, things took a turn, man. We could have used that Taveran bump, bro. It didn't go well."
That's one of my favorite scenes, because Morana's like, "You can keep that ghastly throne, and I hope you choke on it." She just really let it out, and Rand had to be like, "You know what? I really did give you a dog's dinner, and good job, I guess."
Yeah, I guess.
And they did get him everything that he was asking for. It's just that he was unhappy that they demanded anything back from him. So it's like the Greys are negotiators, but but he was a tyrant already at that point, kind of. And so like when he's like, "Oh, they can call on me and I have to come," well, screw them. Like he was just unreasonable.
The second time was when Darlin became king.
So let's shift the focus. Let's say that Suiane, Moiraine, and Grey Sister are there. How is the Grey Sister a benefit, a hindrance, or neutral to the hunt and everything? So not two Greys, a Grey sidekick.
Yeah. Do we know the relationship between the Blues and Greys? Were they friendly?
No, they weren't. In fact, the Greys were closer to the Reds.
It's like Army Navy, Blues and Greys. Yeah, they don't like each other. I heard.
Like the football teams, then?
Yeah. It's called the blue and gray game. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. And then people are doing push-ups after every fucking touchdown. I don't know. Weirdos.
I wonder if they'd had been like, like just envisioning this delegation of Suiane and Moiraine and, Josephine Sedai, the Grey, and she's like, "What you guys talking about? What are you doing over there? Include me."
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, Suiane and Moiraine were lovers. They had a very special bond, and so including a third would. But take all that aside. Let's say it's a team of 3. Would the Grey help? Would the Grey hurt? Would the Grey neutral?
She would have not helped.
Okay.
Yeah.
She would have.
Yeah.
I think she would have been a hindrance.
I
get the same feeling of like when Bera Harkin and Karuna Nachiman took over the delegation, and then Morana was like, "Include me."
Yeah.
And that would have been the Grey Sister, just kind of, "Let me go, please. I need to be there."
She's like the younger brother in a Christmas Story. Come on, guys! Come on!
I think the Grey would have been like where it's like that, like when you watch Netflix dating shows and there's like 2 people sitting on it, like having a nice conversation. They're like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second over here?"
Can I-
And
can
then
I
they
see
go over and and then they're like talking over here, and then that person comes back and is like, "That great, fucking A, right, right." She thinks she's trying to make headway, but she's not.
it? Mhm.
Yeah, she get voted off. All right, so
Netflix
we
game
did.
shows.
All right, so
Yeah.
we did a quick poll that asked about the gray Aja, and we have a 50-50.
This is
Huh.
so
50-50
intriguing.
that they would have successfully gotten Rand to Tommy Guiden or not. So yeah, 50-50
Okay.
in the
Okay.
chat. Yeah.
What was the white result? Did we do that poll?
It was 87% no.
No.
Okay. All right.
Good job,
one
Ryan.
vote for you.
Thanks for
Hey,
doing
thanks.
these.
We all agree.
Hey.
Let's move on then. Let's go to yellow. Yellow are the healing Ajah. They are the EMTs, the first responders. They're the ones that in theory, actually in practice, they're the ones that you got to make an appointment. And maybe they'll, if they can squeeze you in, but they're golfing. Or whatever doctors do. There are two yellows that hear Gitara Moroso. Would they have healed her? All right.
That's right.
No.
She's dead,
No.
right?
All right. Instead of Moiraine Swan, there's two random yellows. Let's go, Jansen.
The yellows would have imploded because of their hubris that they knew exactly what to do and no one else would have been able to tell them how to do it.
Arrogance. Yeah.
Their arrogance killed them.
Hmm.
They would not have
Well,
been. I mean,
how
consider who the leader was at the time. It was still Ramonda.
Mm.
Good. What would she have heard? Would they have brought that information? I mean, how would these two have handled this?
Ramonda held the yellow Ajah with an iron fist.
Mhm.
There was very few things that went on that she wouldn't have known about. So, what do you do? I don't know.
That's a
think
good
that
point.
I think that Ramonda would have tried to see. Ramonda would have been another Elida.
Yeah, her temperament she was petty because basically she was like, "Oh, you didn't pick me to be the Amerlin Sea. I'm leaving.
I'm
So-
taking my ball and going home.
Yeah.
Fuck all y'all.
I don't need this white tower."
I don't need all you bitches.
Yeah, she was very petty, and she was hard headed.
Mhm.
She never fully accepted Egwene, which was actually the reason why she died. She still didn't listen. I mean, at the very end, she was like, "Fuck it, I'm still leaving."
Mhm.
They took her.
On a practical level, the yellow are one of the most important on a day-to-day basis, you would think.
Mhm.
On a grand meta level, their powers might not be as so important. So, Dad Swain, do you think that? So, how would the yellows have handled the information itself? So, we're 3 months into that prophecy.
I really don't think they would have known what to do. I agree with Jansen because you have a couple of things that indicate you have. I remember reading that the yellow kind of considered themselves the only Ajah that was really worth anything because they considered their talent of healing to be, like the only real practical use of the power that was affecting the world.
Sure.
So they really elevated themselves in themselves and was just like, we're the yellow Ajah, we are it. And so I don't think there was a lot of, where would we even go to find the Dragon Reborn? What do we do? I think that they were not an Ajah that was necessarily prepared for political activity or world, last battle activity. While I agree that they were massively useful in healing and in that talent, I don't know. I think there would have been a lot of, squabbling, a lot of, whatever. And like Jansen said, it would have all been funneled through people like Ramonda and who basically had that same yellow Ajah arrogance. Like, I know what we're going to do, which is probably the wrong thing. And, here we go. I feel like the yellow Ajah in the books was placed very well, just kind of into the last battle for the sake of healing people who were getting blown up and stuff. So I don't know that the journey to there would have been a great journey if you had inserted yellow sisters everywhere.
And to your point, I mean, you can't have magical women without saying, all right, do they fix wounds?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That this is the power they have. And so, yeah, why wouldn't there be an entire focus to them?
Yeah, and we saw in the book, not in the books, but in the show, and so I wonder about if they had this also in the books and it was never addressed. But the way that the yellow Ajah can also manipulate their knowledge of the human body to create destructive weaves, so they might have been very good, during the last battle, as a battle, entity. But again, I kind of stand by, if you had put yellow sisters along the path to the last battle, I'm not sure that would have been a great idea.
What do you think, London?
Because they think that healing is basically the most important thing in the world, I don't know that they would have treated it with the level of like, they wouldn't put enough. I mean, with the level of like, I don't think it would have been important enough to them in a way. I think that they would have treated it as something that's like, well, we'll get to it at some point, but I don't think they would have given it the like gravitas that it deserved.
That's a good point. Is this something that do you think they would have had like a cognitive dissonance towards Tarmogoyf because that is unhealable, that is inevitable, and they maybe had some sort of like, they would have been like, well, it's not happening yet. It's coming, but it's not gonna happen. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I kind of think that is what. I think they would kind of put it off, and then they would be like, well, you know what, the last battle's coming. Let's build a bigger hospital or something. But like they would have, I don't think they would have properly prepared and given the actual Dragon Reborn the kind of importance that it deserved. So
yeah, like call us when it gets real bad.
Mm-hmm.
How would they have handled Ren going mad and lose Theron?
That, I think, because we saw, was it Niseo, who was fascinated by Lan's sort of mental journey. And we also see Grendel, who I guess would have been Yellow Ajah as well, fascinated by the way that the mind works. So I think within the Yellow Ajah, you have people who would have been like, oh, he's going mad? Yellow Ajah to the rescue type thing. But I kind of defer to the fact that they might not have done that in terms of the last battle's coming, the Dragon Reborn needs to be prepared. Again, that might have just been an afterthought, more that, oh, we've got a crazy person, that we can work on. We've got hands on that we can, get in there and do stuff with.
Well, and they give up so easy. Like with the healing, even they give up so easy. I don't even know that they would have been all that useful in studying that, because they just sort of. One of the issues with the Yellow Ajah is they're so afraid of harming anyone, which sure obviously makes sense, that they don't even try anything new. So I think they would have been next to pointless for Rand.
London. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Nynaeve, you're using all 5 weaves."
Yeah, exactly.
The greatest yellow healer of all time.
Well, and Nynaeve is also
not because of her skill, because of her she was innovative, and she's the only one to heal madness.
Yeah, she's kind of like another Moiraine, just like what you were saying earlier, is Moiraine was a special kind of blue. I think Nynaeve was also a special kind of yellow. Yeah,
she had the highest dexterity of any other, almost any other.
Well, let's jump to blue. Let's say that there was a mediocre blue. Moiraine was very high in the power. Very high in the power. Let's say there was someone much weaker in the power. Would Rand have ever? Rand would have died, right? I mean,
I don't know, because remember, Moiraine did have an Angriel with her through the entire time, so she.
Good point.
So that being said, it might be able to be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is it safe to say that? Well, the Blues they obviously were successful because the Blues obviously were successful, or can we say that this was a special case because of who they were?
Yeah, I don't think like Lillian would have done as well as
Right.
Moiraine did,
Good
right?
point.
I think that it might. I think that just the Blues in general, I don't know that I would trust all of them to go. I mean, they're kind of, because they are sort of secretive and they're more political, and they don't. It's not. Yeah, I mean, Moiraine was weird because she knew like forbidden weaves and stuff too. So I think, yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
she learned those. Remember when she learned those forbidden weaves? She learned them from Adelis and
Vandine, yeah.
Vandine.
That's true.
You remember coming back saying, "I'm more powerful than I was before."
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she knew Balefire, right?
She learned Balefire. Yeah.
She learned it
From whom?
Adelis and Vandine.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's like special ops.
Yeah, I think she
It's
pieced it together
SEAL
the same
team.
way, like Varian pieced together Compulsion. I think Moiraine kind of like read notes and was like, and now I've got Balefire.
Well, I guess we can skip Blue. Is there anything about Blue you guys want to mention?
Well,
I
Dan,
think-
before you leave, I like your question about whether or not if there was just one yellow sister with Suiane and Moiraine, would that
right.
yellow sister have been a boon? And I believe yes.
Thank
Why
you.
would you not want to have, like, if we confirm that yellow sister is not black, why would we not want an EMT with you, like, helping heal?
So the Yellow Sister as well, because Ramonda would have been a pain in the ass.
Right. But maybe like Samitsu.
Ramonda would have been fighting Moiraine every step of the way.
Well, there's no way that she could have stolen out and gone on a secret mission like Moiraine did.
I guess she could have. I guess she could have.
Ramonda like wanted her fingers in everything though. So that I think her personality would not have worked. But if we take just random, not problematic yellow, just yellow features,
Like Edicina. Okay, Edicina.
Okay.
yeah, or Samitsu, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
people that like were just decent yellows. I agree with you, Ryan. I think that would have been a boon. In Winter Night, it would have solved all kinds of, healed all kinds of people better than Moiraine could have. And Moiraine did well, but she was no yellow. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
She didn't go to med school. I mean, she didn't.
She did have a talent in healing though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she
And
could
she was
do
able-
it.
Damn.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I can play guitar, but I'm not a guitar player.
But I mean, she did like, what was it? No, I'm sorry, that was something completely different. Never mind. She didn't.
So that's So Moiraine's healing is like me with a guitar around a campfire. Not great, but you know what? It can entertain some people. That's kind of how I see it. It's like, yeah, no, I can play a little bit. That's Moiraine's healing ability. But let's say we had like a freaking surgeon with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Instead of just playing Freebird all the time. All right, let's jump to the beefier ajahs. Let's go. Let's see. There's green, there's red, and what else am I missing?
Yeah, then
Chartreuse and chartreuse.
So that's
Let's go green. Let's say there was two greens. They hear guitar go, "Oh, he's there." Blah. How do they react?
I believe that the Greens would have let Rand go so bad that he would have shattered.
Oh.
So Elias says, hard breaks, strong, last.
Yeah.
Right.
Or just
Right.
like his mom says, you have to be able to bend. I think that the Greens would have been so militaristic that I think Rand would have gone crazy.
Leonard, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Although, I think he would have been able to survive. They would have had warders, and he would have had a band of people. But I think the Greens would have made him step.
Okay. London, we have the Battle Ajah. They are prepping for Tarmogoyf. Do they understand this prophecy? And if so, how did they react?
I mean, I think at the beginning they would react in a really similar way as like Suiane and Moiraine. Just like we have to go find the kid. But I mean, I don't know. Is one of these Greens someone like Cadsuane? Because I think that would be problematic at the very beginning because she's so bossy and standoffish that I just don't think. I don't think the Greens have enough. I don't think a Green would have gotten the kids out of Edmund's Field.
Let's say it's Alana. A couple warders.
I think Alana. But Alana is still kind of. I mean, still a little bit fiery. I think you needed somebody that kind of has a little bit more bent to them to deal with those like those 5 young adults that because they're so stubborn and such a pain, and Moiraine kind of corrals them by like giving in here and there, and I just don't think Greens would have had it in them to do that. It would have been I don't think they would have followed a Green out.
Not they would have all been bonded too.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's a yeah. I didn't even consider that. So, Dashwayne, what do you think? How do you think? 3 months in, what are the Greens doing?
I agree. I think the Greens would have done exactly what Moiraine and Swan did, which was try to find him. But I also agree that they
spread the word.
Yeah. I don't think so. Not at first. But okay. I think the bonding for sure, and I do think it would have been kind of irresponsible. I think they would have been like, okay, we've got 3 Taverin, bond them all now. Fuck it, bond Nynaeve too. Who cares? Just kind of like get them all together so that we can. Because even Alana, when she bonded Rand, the first thing she did was try to compulse the bond so she could control him and make him.
That was. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Reaction.
I've never understood why they are allowed. I've never understood why compulsion is allowed if it's your warder. That was always weird to me. But
I also think the structure of the Green Ajah is battle and military. So I wonder if they would have fixated on Rand as their commander in chief and just kind of done.
It's almost like Fardas Mai.
Yeah, and just done whatever he was doing, like we were saying, without really stepping back and trying to use, the wisdom, just kind of being like, well, the pattern's taking him there, so here we go, because he's our leader, and I think that might have been disastrous in some ways.
So they would have had a more hands-off role with Rand. As like, hey, whatever you say, you want to throw nukes over here? Yeah. You got it, boss. Aye, aye, Captain.
I think still tried to manipulate him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they would have been on Rand's side for sure. They would have convinced him that our purpose was to wait for you to fight for Tarmogoyf with you, and I think that they would have held that as an honor.
I think that the Greens would have been problematic in that they have a military structure within their heads, right? And so it's like, we got to prep for things. And if they know that shit is going down, they're going to spread it around. They're going to tell people, hey, Tarmogoyf's coming. Hey, we got it. Hey, get ready, fucker. And so I think shit would spread. It would have spread through the tower, and then it would have spread, and jeopardizing Rand.
Yeah,
I think Moiraine and Swan's like biggest asset was that no one knew, and I think that the Greens would not have held that. I also think the Greys would not have as well.
yeah. I'm kind of under the impression that they would not have even found him. Like if we think about, like, literally it took Maureen and Rand were going around just being census workers for 20 years. One of the most mundane, boring ass shit you could ever do, walking around to like townsfolks and just asking them about births and shit. Like, I don't think the Green would have been able to like handle all that and being so dedicated to it. I think that they would never have found him.
I'm gonna push back for a second on like you guys, where you think that like they would have just followed him into battle and stuff. I don't think that's how they would be at all. I think they would have been dehumanizing almost toward him. They would see him as a weapon. Like, this is a weapon that we're going to use to fight the Dark One. Like, but I don't think that they would have followed him anywhere. They would have tried to like point him in the direction they thought he needed to go the whole time.
Like the government in Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you have a superhuman, and yeah, throw him on the battlefield. Yeah, that's a good point. There would there have been a schism if no, I don't think so. Right, the schism wouldn't have occurred if the Green Ajah were the ones who were with Rand. They would have destroyed the rebellion.
Well, but there would have been something. The schism was brought on by the Forsaken and the Black Ajah. So
yeah.
I mean, it was started by Elida, but Alvarian took it as a use. She made a use of it. And I mean, her order to make the tower go crazy. So.
Here's the question: would the Green Ajah have been so cool with Rand going to the waste and fulfilling his Aiel prophecies?
Well,
I don't think so. I think that they would have had an idea that Rand needs to go to Shire Gore, and this last battle needs to happen. So what are you doing in the waste? And there wouldn't have been any kind of like room for, maybe the pattern is leading him into the waste because of something. So I think they would have created conflict between maybe the White Tower and the Aiel, or the White Tower and anybody else who saw Rand as whatever their particular prophecies called him.
Well, could have Green have surrendered to Rand? I don't think so either.
Right.
No, because even when Cadsuane's, and I love Cadsuane, obviously, but even when Cadsuane even when her ban was lifted, she was still kind of like, I don't know why you did that in the first place. She still had that Cadsuane-ness about her.
Her sass? Is that what you would refer?
I think it's what I relate to the most.
Her Aiel sass? Yeah, I think that they would have had an issue with the everything about the waste. I don't think the Greens really could have handled the Aiel culture with Rand there at all. I don't know how they would have. I mean, I guess Rand bends all things to him, but it would have been more problematic than with Moiraine. Rand was really go with the flow.
One huge thing. When they all first came to the waste, they had no idea that Lan was like an honored guest.
Mm-hmm.
He was like one of the most he was a legend. For 20 years they had been talking about this guy. So like knowing that he was there had to help, because remember, Moraine's uncle caused the whole war.
Yeah, Jesus.
So, she was, and they even mentioned that in the books that, they knew she was a Carrion and a Demodred. The Aiel knew that. So, they had some. There was a lot of complicated relationships when they got by the time they got to the waves.
Yeah.
I'm curious to. I was just thinking this about the archetype sisters in each Ajah, like what the Ajah looks up to. So we're on the Green Ajah, so they look up to Cadswain as a legend. They look up to Karagan McConnor as a legend, and I think there was one other Emerlin who was Green Ajah that they were like legendary sister, and all the things that these sisters did that Greens were like, I want to be that, I got to be that, and it all had to do with war and battle and capturing and whatever. And so each Ajah had their kind of archetypal, the Blue Sisters looked up to the sisters that basically saved the tower from any red Amerlin, and other things, like that. So I wonder if that plays into how each Ajah would have handled Rand because of what they're looking up to.
Love men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a question: would they have been able to employ Cadswain earlier? Would Cadswain have been come? What was that?
Most people thought she was dead.
You're right. So she was a complete lone wolf. Like even if there was a bunch of greens with Rand, you don't think that would have like somehow gotten to Cadswain earlier?
I don't think she cared that much about her Ajah.
Yeah.
She had roses to tend to.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, maybe the calculation is whether or not the Greens would have been able to keep him alive until Cadswain joined, and then she would have just taken over.
Yeah, I agree. She would have definitely taken over. But I think you're right that they wouldn't have necessarily, because a lot of them, when they met Cadswain when she did arrive, they were like, "Oh, I thought you were dead." I think they really had kind of dismissed her as a retired Aes Sedai. She's retired. She's 300 years old. She's dead. And so when she showed up, of course, she was like, "I'm a fucking legend. Give me control."
Well, give me.
Handled the Black Ajah situation.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about Black. So let's say one of the two, Suiane Moiraine, replace them. Moiraine and a Black Ajah, or Suiane and a Black Ajah. I guess it's self-evident what would have had occurred, but how the process would have worked out, I guess. So a Black Ajah hears this prophecy. Go.
It would have been.
they don't. One thing that comes to mind is that the Black Ajah don't know who each other are.
Huge point.
Yeah,
very good point.
So they would have to somehow, and I don't know if they had any direct way to call upon like their Forsaken or whoever got them into the Black Ajah. Like they had no way to call upon them. They have to wait to be summoned or addressed by them, visited by them. So yeah, I mean, I can almost imagine that just falling on deaf ears in a way, where a Black sister would just have to sit on that knowledge, waiting for maybe one of them Forsaken to visit, and then they can be like spill the beans about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. They have to keep that. Go ahead, Jansen. I'm sorry.
So you think Rand, Matt, and Perrin could have like severely dodged their way to Tarmangaden?
I think to Ryan's point that they would have been very, very close with what they saw until they were asked about it.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I just don't think a bunch of Black sisters would be there at Winter's Night trying to like find Rand and like do anything with them. I don't think they're organized in that way. I don't think they only take orders from whoever like got them, invested in the Black Ajah. So I just don't think that they would be there. I mean, but if they were there, obviously that's just all bad, right? Like they could be conning him, they could be lying to him throughout the entire situation, and that would be obviously.
Use this question: would the Dark One have benefited all that much if he had found out this information in London?
The Black Ajah is selfish. Like that's how they're defined, right? So they're not doing anything for the benefit of even the Black Ajah. They're doing things to benefit themselves. So if the sister that heard the prophecy was like, "Oh, that's messed up," like she's going to do the most selfish thing possible, which is probably just nothing. If I were like sit on it, because otherwise you're going to be asked to put yourself in harm's way or something, like, and if nobody knows, then you can just kind of, I don't know. If I were like the most selfish version of myself listening to that, I would be like, oh, the easiest thing to do right now is not bring that up. So I think that's what a black sister would do.
So that's when would the Dark One have? So would the Dark One have learned news if these two black sisters had recited this prophecy to him?
I feel like he somehow they caught wind of it because Marianne and what's her fuck was like out trying to find the hunters and kill them before they found the Dragon Reborn. So there was some knowledge there. I also agree that, if we're going by the timeline, they hear Gitara's prophecy, Gitara croaks, Tamra basically, gives them not very much time before she sends Moiraine and Suiane out. So they would have had to go through their crazy system of Plinko to get through their hearts and up into the Supreme Council, and by that time they could have already been on the road. So I do think communication inside the Black Ajah would have been super slow. It might have taken them not the full 20 years to just get the message to Ishamael, but they would have taken a longer time. And I think eventually, like they were saying, like the goal was either to turn the Dragon Reborn to the Shadow, which was not everyone's goal. I think Lanfear definitely wanted that. I think a couple of others definitely wanted that. A lot of the Dark Friends in the Shadow just wanted him dead. So I do think maybe once they found Rand or the Dragon Reborn, the Black Sister probably would have just axed the other Aes Sedai and then killed him.
I agree. Because remember, they sent out the Black Ajah after the Hunters immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
Jansen, let me ask that question. Did the Dark One learn anything if they are black? Did the Dark One know exactly when the prophecy happened? Did he know exactly when Rand was born? Does he know every prophecy as it happens?
When they who was it? Espen who interrogated Tamra?
Chesmal?
Or Chesmal, remember, was it?
Chesmal, yeah.
I know Espen was the one who came out, right, and said that she died.
Right.
So we know that Espen was in the tower at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Marianne was immediately out in the borderlands killing other Aes Sedai. We know that, like, as early as Moiraine left, other Black Ajah had left the tower on missions to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they were looking for him. They wanted him dead. And that's the first guy, the blacksmith, who they found dead with all the silver on him still.
Mm-hmm.
All the kids and barns that were burned. And that's how the trouble started.
Yeah, I don't know that the Dark One has a sort of omniscience to say when Gitara is, speaking the words, he's in a corner going like, what? I'm not sure that that's happening, but I do think that he gets information very quickly by some means. I mean, he is a very powerful being, so I think it didn't take him very long to figure out that the dragon had been reborn, but I don't know necessarily that while Shael is giving birth, he's like, something's happening.
Yeah.
See, I would have thought that the pattern was like bending right then, and like some fuckery was happening. And he's like, "Oh, look at that! That's probably a dragon." But
well, there's a reason they sent out Pattern Fane to search.
Pattern Fane.
I have a question. Do you think Pattern Fane was the only one? No, it couldn't be, right?
No.
No.
Had to be a
What? So what would have? Let's look at the dynamic if there was Swan, Moraine, and let's say a high-ranking black. Let's say it's Shiram.
Oh, but I think that she kills
Disaster.
everyone in the room, and
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just game over.
And
Yeah, probably end scene. Yeah, it's probably a good point. Well,
End
fuck it.
scene.
Anything
Yeah.
else about the black?
No, that was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, let's jump to
just-
red. Fine. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say that almost self-explanatory. But yeah, the last one is red.
One of all.
Red. Their main goal is to still every male channeler, to control them, to stop them, and yet they know that a male channeler is going to have to go to Tarmogoyf. Elida obviously knows this. Let's say Elida was one of those two people instead of Moraine. Let's say it's Elida.
Everything would have changed
Talk to me.
because they are actually witnessing a foretelling, and Elida knows better than anybody that a foretelling is absolutely true. So the thing that they would not have done was just dismiss him as another false dragon. They
Yeah.
would have known that the dragon would have been reborn. And in fact, I actually think the Reds might have handled it awesomely.
Oh.
Okay,
Because-
go on.
The thing was the biggest fear of the Reds was them gentling Rand. If they knew that Rand wholeheartedly was the dragon reborn itself, the only obstacle they have at this point is the Black Ajah. Because they're capable, they're strong. You know, they don't have some of the vices that other Ajahs have.
But Jansen, we get inside Elida's head, and she's like, "Yeah, we gotta capture him. We gotta put him in a cell, and then when Tarmogoyf happens, we gotta unleash him." London, how do you think the Reds would have Elida specifically? Let's say it's Elida instead of Moraine.
I think Elida would have done that. Elida would have, her whole goal would be to, but then Moraine's goal wasn't really that far off that mark at the beginning either, was it? She was going to bring Rand to Tarvalon and to basically keep him safe. And I think that Elida would have had a similar approach, maybe a little bit more controlling, but I think that she would have. I think her goal would have been about the same, like bring him here to the White Tower and hold on to him, or like we're gonna set him up to fulfill certain prophecies, like when we're ready for that to happen. I think she would have been too controlling about it, but
I agree.
Would he have gotten Kalendor?
I don't know. I think
Probably not.
that
Elida would have stormed here with the entire.
Yeah, she would have.
Telegraph.
She would have gone and got it for him.
yeah. I think it would have.
Yeah.
Entry.
I do think you're right. I think it would have played out the way that they would have planned it to. So it wouldn't have been, show up and fight Bilal, and then you have to get Kalendor as you're fighting a Shamiel. I really think they would have been like, okay, on Tuesday we'll be in Tyr, get the sword. On Wednesday, we'll fulfill this prophecy. But they have complete control of what's going on. Because I think the Red Ajah would have been terrified of him just going mad and channeling the fuck out of the White Tower. So they had to find a way. I don't think anybody had the idea, let's make him cleanse Sidene. They just didn't have these ideas. And he wouldn't have come to those conclusions without the freedom that Moraine gave him to read books and stuff.
It would never have let the Black Tower form.
Black Tower would not exist.
Exist.
No.
Very good point.
I don't think Min would have been necessarily in with him as well. So because she had a lot of influence, over Rand, and so I don't think that aspect would have been there either.
So Jansen, how would this work out?
I think that it would have still worked. I think that the Reds would have started. I think that the Red, no matter what happens, even though the Black Tower might not have formed, I think male channelers would have still came. I think they would have still came.
Uh-huh.
I do think that might have been a problem, but I think the Reds were capable. I do. I like Pravara. You know, I think Pravara is one of the most capable Aes Sedai. Not just Ajah. I think she's one of the most capable Aes Sedai in the entire books. And I think, like, you know, her kind of level-headedness could have, like, because if you imagine Pravara as the Emerald seat would have been way different than Elijah. You know, completely different. She actually liked men. You know, she would have proved that she was able to work with men. So, you know, I think that Pravara being that red would have been different. Or, you know, even in some instances, Sylviana.
Mm-hmm.
She was very capable, you know, like, and very, like, more of a white than a red even, you know, I thought. So I think that, and also, let's not forget that Elida was also tainted by Pat and Fame.
Very good point.
So,
well,
she was already unable to work with anybody.
Let's shift the focus then. Let's say that there is Moiraine, Swan, and a red sister. Let's even say it's Pravara.
Yeah, I think that would depend on the red, because I also think too. Remember Pavara and I can't remember who, but Sutama was the head of the Red Ajah, and she was the one who was like, you know, it's going to be up to us to bond channelers. So there was a malleability to that strict kind of, you know, stop male channelers in the Red Ajah. People did have, you know, cognitive thinking, and they were kind of pondering what to do and how to do it. So I do think
would they have bonded him right off the bat, do you think?
Possibly. I think they might have tried. I don't. And again, depending on which red sister you had going, they might have thought that's the only way to control him.
Would all the Reds know, or would they have been able to keep it a secret?
I think, now see, this is where I think it gets really interesting. I think that would have been some really good writing to read about that, because I think that the two Reds that we're talking about, I think they would have hit it from their own eyes.
Okay.
Interesting.
That would have to be like the case.
Yeah.
But then they wouldn't bring him back to Tarvalon, right? So that whole idea of like bringing him back and keeping him safe just wouldn't happen because they're keeping it secret.
Which would make the discussion of Reds bonding warders earlier than later in the book.
Well, all right, let's do a poll, not a poll like poll, but between us all. So I personally think that that there's a few Ajahs that could not have kept a secret. Blues, I think, were designed to keep secrets. What other Ajahs could have kept this secret as Moiraine did?
Well, the Black. They're good at keeping secrets.
The Black. The Black.
Well, I mean, Reds had kind of a history of doing like weird illegal stuff, right? So, like,
definitely, yeah.
But would they have spread that within their own Ajah? They're like, hey, there's a male channeler, but we're not supposed to steal him. But he's around.
No, because I don't think they would trust each other with that information. Like, I mean, I think Reds are kind of. I mean, they're a little bit crooked. I think that the few that heard it would have kept the secret. Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
That's right. What do you think? What other Ajahs could keep a secret?
Browns probably. I think yellow, just like we said before. I just think they wouldn't even care. So not so much keeping a secret, but just kind of being like, oh, okay.
I think the yellows would make it their duty to not keep it secret.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think
I think that's the biggest point of a lot of these Ajahs is that no one could have kept it secret. I think the Blues were especially designed for it. They're special causes. They're able to just be gone for years and years, and it's cool. But like the Red, I don't think could have kept a secret because this is their main thing. This is what they do.
It's their
And
moment.
so they talk about male channelers. This is what they do. Oh, did you hear about this other male channeler?
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I don't know if keeping it a secret might even be the right thing to ask. Because I think that some Ajahs would consider it their duty to not keep it a secret.
Right.
Right. Which would have spoiled everything, right?
Yeah, because of the Black Ajah.
Yep.
Right. Or not. I mean,
Well, remember
I
that
don't know.
Aes Sedai were inherently arrogant anyway, and they had their own kind of Aes Sedai-ness that got in the way of a lot of stuff. And so I think, yes, you have the Black Ajah influencing and meddling a little bit, but I think that Aes Sedai arrogance would have played its own part in each of the Ajahs.
I mean, what Swan did was worthy of execution. She was treasonous. She was, unless you say if the president does it, then it's not a crime, like Nixon. But what she was doing was completely antithetical to everything that Aes Sedai stand for. The White Tiger kind of stands for.
Yeah.
This secrecy. Yeah, go ahead.
To help and await Tarmangaiden, and she was completely keeping the entire tower away from that. In aspect, yeah,
right. Would another? So to your point, then, would more openness have been better in the long run?
Only because of the Black Ajah.
Yeah.
See, that's weird that
except the Black Ajah still found out, right? We just so they still found out. So the Black Ajah actually knew when the rest of the tower didn't.
Right.
So maybe, so like they didn't keep it a secret from the Black Ajah.
Sure. Correct.
Not really. I think once you got the Dragon Reborn to the tower, then there might have been issues within the tower on, who's got access to him. What is the plan? How is the Black Ajah?
London, big, huge point, though. The Black Ajah knew about it from the very beginning.
I think no secrets are from the Dark One. I think he knows everything.
I don't agree with that.
We got to say he's a demigod. I mean, he's not a human. He's a demigod.
But he's like the Eye of Sauron, though.
But no, Sauron isn't a demigod, though. The Eye of Sauron was an extension of a physical person.
I think the Dark One. I don't think the Dark One knows everything because because people seem to be able to keep kind of secrets from him, right? Like, there's times where it's clear he doesn't know what's going on because his own people are lying to him. But I think that he can probably sense when his nemesis is born in the world, right?
Shifts,
like he probably can just feel that. But yeah,
that was weird. That was really weird. Do you guys feel that?
Yeah. It's a disturbance in the force sort of situation. Like he's like, oh, I don't. But I don't think that. So that's why the Black Ajah knows. So maybe the whole tower would have gotten behind him much faster if they would have known that he was born.
That's interesting. How would the Aes Sedai have reacted? Actually, when their entire focus is that female channelers are good and male channelers are bad. I think the Red were an extension of the whole Aes Sedai feeling about male channelers.
Well,
they were just the police.
The world was terrified of male channelers.
Right.
Because they still, even 3,000 years later, they were kind of like, if a man touches Saidin, mountains are going to crumble, fire's going to come up the chimney, it's just going to be crazy. So, no.
Yeah, it is weird that the Dark One still had to didn't know stuff. Yeah, he's not as smart as the creator. I'm pretty sure.
I also think the Dark One, even Viren said, the Dark One's motivations are not the same as the Forsaken or the Black Ajah. Like, he could really care less about the squabblings of his people as long as they're creating chaos and disruption. He's a happy lady.
Yeah.
Well, the Dark One's goal, the Dark One's goal kind of was still to get him to the last battle, too. Sure. So maybe even just the Black Ajah being, he still needed to make it to that, so.
Yeah, I wonder if
Yeah.
he considered
Right.
maybe taking the Dragon Reborn for himself as like a fuck you to the creator,
Mhm.
where the dragon was kind of the creator's avatar. If he could get him to the last battle and turn him, then he could be like, now he's my avatar, and that was a completely different motivation than what the Dark Friends and everybody else was going for.
Awesome.
I love nerd shit, Ryan.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of other questions. I want to pick everyone's brains, but we're going on 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's put a bow on this one. Guys, here's our closing songs. Everyone, thank you for joining us. This is our time when we pimp our shit. London Rivers, do you have anything to promote before
River.
we leave? River, God damn it!
I noticed in the chat you like somebody put like my Blue Sky account, but don't go to the Blue Sky account that's in the chat right now.
Yeah,
Don't go to
do
that one. That one's a grown-up one. Go to
Okay.
go to just London Watt in Blue Sky, and that's like all like nerd stuff and no grown-up-y things.
Okay. Actually,
Yeah.
your safe for work link is in the description of this video.
Perfect. Excellent. Yeah.
Ryan,
Just-
let's end with one.
All right. Well, yeah. Before, and then also, Dad Swain, do you have anything to promote?
Keep in mind that the Wheel of Time Idol Christmas version has been extended for another week. So if you want to get your entries in for the Wheel of Time we do What Idol during the year, and they're doing a Christmas version now of parody music and art and things. So head on over to whatidol.com and check that out and put your entries in. I'm so excited.
Oh, do you have one in?
I'm going to finish it tonight and then enter it tomorrow.
Do you want to
Awesome.
share what you're parodying?
I can. So
Okay.
there's a song called Mary Did You Know? And I have changed it into a Christmassy Wheel of Time version of Somebody Did You Know?
Okay. Nice.
You'll have to check it out in order to find out who I'm talking about.
I can't wait to see it.
All right. Me too. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And as always, run for your lives. This is The Way to Leave.